faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're diving into the book How to Learn. In traditional thinking, the key factors for learning are self-discipline and hard work. The more time you put in, the better you learn. Distraction and forgetting are seen as enemies of learning. Whether it's memorizing vocab or practicing violin, teachers always advise students to focus intensely and repeat lessons in a fixed, quiet spot to deepen memory and avoid forgetting. The book's author, Benedict Carey, grew up with this educational mindset too. He studied super hard as a kid, waking up at 5 a.m. to read. Even though his grades were great, he always lacked confidence, never spoke up in class, and worried he didn't grasp the material. After college, Carey became a science reporter for the New York Times, covering breakthroughs in brain science and cognitive psychology, much of it tied to learning. After interviewing many scientists in the learning field, Carey found that scientifically backed methods are way different from old school views. So, what's different? Scientists say forgetting isn't learning's enemy. It's part of the process, helping us solidify new knowledge. Your study spot doesn't need to be the same. Switching locations actually boosts results. When tackling tough problems, don't just stare at them. Taking breaks for distraction and relaxation can spark ideas to solve things. Carey was skeptical at first, so he tested these methods himself, using them to learn a language and play guitar. After trying it out, he felt more relaxed and confident, and his learning improved too. So, Carey wrote How to Learn. The book breaks down the brain's learning mechanisms scientifically and shares easy-to-use methods. Science writer Juan Weigang said, "I regret not knowing this new science of learning 20 years ago." Next up, I'll cover the book's main ideas in 3 parts. First, how the brain remembers. Second, how to boost memory. Third, how to tackle complex subjects. Let's start with part 1, how the brain remembers. Before diving into specific methods, we need to grasp the brain's memory system. It's the foundation for what comes next. Back in the day, people thought if you couldn't recall something, your brain had forgotten it, so it was gone. In this view, forgetting is the opposite of memory. Once forgotten, it's gone. But recent memory research has overturned this view and formed a new theory called the theory of disuse, which comprehensively explains memory phenomena and helps us understand its mechanisms. And if. It has 2 key principles. The first principle is that memory consists of 2 main abilities: storage and retrieval. Storage strength refers to how familiar we are with something and how firmly it's remembered. The more frequently we engage with it, the stronger its storage becomes. For example, we use the multiplication table countless times in school. But thus, being highly familiar with multiplication facts, the theory of disuse suggests storage strength only increases, never weakens. The brain has ample storage to record everything we experience. Once stored in our mind, it's remembered forever and never truly forgotten. This sounds counterintuitive. If it's always remembered, why can't we recall it sometimes? This relates to retrieval strength, the ability to bring memories into conscious awareness. When we can't recall something, it doesn't mean we've forgotten it. It's still in our brain. We just lack sufficient retrieval strength to search out and bring that information to consciousness. Unlike storage strength, retrieval strength weakens with disuse, making memories inaccessible. Say at a gathering, you have your parents, former boss, and elementary school teacher. Your parents, whom you think of often, have the strongest retrieval strength, but your elementary teacher, unseen for years, you might blank on their name. The theory of disuse's second principle concerns retrieving a memory. The harder the retrieval effort, the greater the boost to both retrieval and storage strength afterward, known as the principle of desirable difficulty. Memory resembles muscles. They fatigue during exercise but grow stronger after rest, called supercompensation in sports. Similarly, the struggle to recall itself strengthens both storage and retrieval. So forgetting isn't memory's opposite. Forgotten things can be recalled again, actually strengthening the memory. An English teacher named Ballard conducted an experiment where students spent 5 minutes reading a poem and trying to memorize it. And then the students wrote the poem from memory to see how much they could recall. Unsurprisingly, they only remembered fragments. 2 days later, Ballard unexpectedly asked them to write it again. They had no warning and hadn't reviewed. But shockingly, their average scores improved by 10%.
Days later, another surprise test showed their scores climbing even higher.
One student wrote just 3 lines initially, but produced 11 a week later, perfectly explained by desirable difficulty. During the first test, students strained to recall what they could remember. This effort strengthened both storage and retrieval of those lines. In subsequent tests, they wrote these reinforced lines faster, thus freeing mental bandwidth to retrieve previously inaccessible content. Since poems formed cohesive wholes with emotional and thematic links between lines, written lines served as cues to recall missing ones, hence recalling more later than initially. Crucially, desirable difficulty requires recalling before complete forgetting to strengthen memory. But we rarely recall proactively, often waiting until needed, when it's vanished completely. Beyond memory, this helps master new skills faster. New skills often conflict with ingrained old ones. Without forgetting old skills, learning new ones becomes impossible. For example, in China we drive right, but in Japan they drive left. If we don't temporarily forget our home driving habits in Japan, we dangerously swerve into wrong lanes. All right, let's summarize part 1. The theory of disuse posits 2 memory abilities: storage and retrieval. Storage strength measures retention depth. It only strengthens, never weakens. Retrieval strength measures access speed. It weakens without regular use. The harder we struggle to recall something, the greater the boost to both storage and retrieval strength once remembered. Forgetting also helps us temporarily set aside old skills to master new ones faster. That covers the mechanism of memory. Now, in part 2, let's explore how to enhance memory. The author introduces 3 methods. The first is breaking environmental consistency. For years, educators believed studying in a fixed environment yields better results. This view holds some truth. Scientific research shows that identical study environments do enhance memory. Psychologists conducted an experiment. 18 divers memorized a word list underwater in full gear. An hour later, half were tested on land, the other half still underwater.
Results showed those tested underwater recalled 30% more words.
Psychologists believe that during learning, we memorize not just the material, but also environmental cues. For instance, underwater, the rhythmic breathing, tank weight, fish swimming by, all stored by the brain. Testing in the same environment, these background cues boost retrieval. It's common to recall words memorized in the same setting. On sunny days, we easily recall events from similar weather. Returning to school years later, we recall campus memories, all due to environmental triggers. So theoretically, studying and testing in the same place improves performance. But this is impractical. Exam locations are often randomly assigned beyond our control, like China's national college entrance exams held at random schools. For performance skills, controlling venues is even harder. A violinist might perform in theaters, bars, restaurants, anywhere. If they practiced only one spot per consistency rule, they might underperform elsewhere due to unfamiliarity. Thus, to enhance memory and ensure adaptability, vary study locations. In one experiment, psychologists split students into 2 groups, each spending 2 10-minute sessions learning a word list. The harder we work to recall something, the more it boosts both storage and retrieval strength once remembered. Forgetting also helps us temporarily set aside old skills to master new ones faster. That covers memory mechanisms. Now for part 2, how to enhance memory. The author introduces 3 methods. First is breaking environmental consistency. Educators long believed fixed study environments yield better results. This view has some merit. Research shows identical environments do enhance recall. Group 1 studied 10 minutes in a room, took a break, then resumed in the same room. Group 2 studied 10 minutes, took a break, then moved to a different room.
Both were tested in an unfamiliar classroom. Results showed dramatic differences.
Group 2 scored 50% higher on average. Psychologists found varied locations encode more environmental cues, creating richer retrieval triggers. New settings lack familiar cues, increasing recall difficulty, applying desirable difficulty for stronger memory, ultimately building stronger retrieval strength, leading to better performance anywhere. The author notes environmental variation isn't just location. Change study times, add soft music, or even switch postures. Standing instead of sitting while reading adds cues boosting retrieval. The second method, spaced repetition, immediate review after learning doesn't deepen memory. Instead, space reviews, say hours or days later, to lock knowledge tighter. Known in psychology as the spacing effect, example, take 30 unfamiliar English words. Memorize 15 today for 10 minutes, review tomorrow for 10 more. For the other 15, cram 20 minutes tomorrow with no review. When tested a week later, the spaced group will recall better. Those 15 words stick better. Why does spaced repetition strengthen recall? It links back to desirable difficulty. The harder we strain to retrieve a memory, the greater the boost to retrieval and storage once recalled. Delayed review weakens retrieval strength, making recall harder, but succeeding strengthens memory more. Plus, the gap reveals easily forgotten content, letting us target weaknesses for stronger retention. Additionally, when reviewing after a gap, your study environment might change too. Maybe you studied at school in the morning last time, but review at home in the evening next time. This breaks environmental consistency, providing the brain with richer contextual cues and boosting retrieval strength. Scientists have determined optimal review intervals through extensive group comparisons. The ideal review gap depends on how long you need to retain the information. If your exam's in a week, review today, then again in 1 to 2 days. For a month-out exam, review today, then a week later. For 3 months away, review today, then after about 2 weeks. These intervals aren't rigid, adjust by 1 to 2 days as needed. If unsure, add a third review the day before the exam. The third memory-boosting method, self-testing. This means actively recalling content without materials through recitation, problem-solving, or teaching others. The core principle remains desirable difficulty. Reviewing math theorems through problem-solving is tougher than rereading, but etches them deeper in memory. The author also describes pre-testing, taking exams before learning the material. For example, teaching country capitals. Normally, teach capitals first, then memorize. Pre-testing, first give multiple choice quizzes with 5 options per country. Students guess blindly, scoring poorly initially. After the quiz, immediately reveal correct answers. Subsequent tests show pre-tested students retain 10 to 20% more than non-pre-tested peers. Psychologists believe pre-testing's greatest value is focusing attention on learning targets. After pre-testing, students immediately know which questions they missed and what the correct answers are. So before class, they'll already have a rough grasp of the material, knowing exactly which concepts they don't understand and need to focus on. And when they get you tied to again, when those sections come up, students pay extra attention, deepening their understanding.
Plus, compared to directly learning facts, guessing first, then learning makes us invest more mental effort to find answers.
This aligns with desirable difficulty too, strengthening our memory of key concepts. All right, let's recap Part 2's key points. 3 ways to boost memory. First, break consistency by varying study locations and times, giving your brain richer environmental cues to strengthen retrieval. Second, spaced repetition. After learning something new, don't review immediately. Space out your reviews. Third, self-testing through recitation or problem-solving to actively recall content. Pre-testing is a form of this. It primes students to notice key information, enhancing learning. But many real-life challenges are way more complex than memorizing vocabulary. Like math exams, we need not just formula recall, but also problem analysis, deciding which formulas to apply. Same goes for research, writing novels, or sports, all requiring judgment and strategy beyond mere memory. So for part 3, I'll cover handling such complex tasks, focusing on 3 methods.
First, interleaved learning, mixing related but distinct topics during study sessions.
Say a student prepping for math. Their plan might be functions today, geometry tomorrow, statistics the next day, each for an hour.
With interleaving, they'd mix all problem types together daily in one blended session.
For years, people believed drilling one topic nonstop was the fastest path to mastery. Like, if I'm weak in geometry, I should dedicate blocks of time just to geometry problems.
That works. But scientists found interleaving outperforms it, leading to greater excellence.
Numerous experiments prove interleaved learners grasp math concepts more deeply and solve problems faster. The effectiveness of interleaved learning has also been affirmed in other fields. In one experiment, researchers gathered a group of badminton players and had them practice 3 types of serves. One group of athletes was the sequential training group. They focused on one serve type per day and switched to another the next day. The other group was the interleaved learning group. They mixed all 3 serves daily and couldn't serve the same type twice in a row. After 3 weeks, in a serving skill test, the interleaved group averaged 18 points, while the sequential group averaged only 12.
Why does interleaved learning work better?
First, because exams and sports competitions inherently mix different skills, like athletes adapting to court changes by hitting varied speeds and placements, so alternating practice naturally boosts on-the-spot performance. Second, interleaved learning forces us to distinguish between different concepts, deepening our understanding of the knowledge. Compared to simple repetition, it helps us grasp knowledge more firmly. So, to achieve outstanding performance, we must not only master existing skills, but also learn to discern when to apply each one. After such training, we can make more accurate judgments in exams or competitions and achieve better results. The second method for handling complex tasks is percolation, from seep and filter, originally meaning a filtering method. The author uses this term to describe how people generate insights that help find breakthroughs in problem solving. Many outstanding individuals have stated that when facing tough problems, a sudden flash of insight often helps them find a breakthrough. French mathematician Poincaré said that when tackling math puzzles, he'd often start with no progress, so he'd take a break and then continue.
Suddenly, a fully formed idea would appear in his mind.
German physicist Helmholtz, the discoverer of the law of conservation of energy, said inspiration never came while working, but it would suddenly appear during mountain walks. So how do we get valuable insights? The author divides the insight process into 3 steps. Step 1 is interruption. When focused on a problem without finding a solution, we should consciously stop to rest and do other things to refresh our minds, like browsing online, reading books, or having dinner with friends. Interruption helps us forget preconceived assumptions, opening new perspectives. For example, when opening a package, my first instinct is to find scissors. If I can't find scissors, I might think I can't open it, but that's a bias. Many things work, like keys or pens, but I might overlook these because I assume keys only open doors and pens only write. These hidden assumptions limit our problem-solving creativity. When distracted by other tasks, the brain forgets these assumptions, helping find novel solutions. After interruption, the process enters step 2, activation. When we start something, we naturally develop a desire to complete it. If interrupted, the brain prioritizes it, activating focus and scanning for relevant solution clues. A novelist shared that once immersed in writing, new ideas pop up during other activities. From overheard bus conversations to TV news, everything sparks creativity. So, how to interrupt effectively for activation? The author suggests 3 interruption methods. First, relaxation, like music or shopping. Second, light mental work, like gaming or news. Third, intense mental work, like writing or solving another puzzle. All 3 can shift perspective and spark inspiration.
Effectiveness varies by person. Experiment to find your best fit.
Step 3, conscious reflection. After steps 1 and 2, ideas naturally surface.
We must evaluate them, assess usefulness and application.
Like novelists judging if new material fits their theme. Interruption, activation, and reflection form a complete percolation cycle. The author advises starting tough tasks early to allow ample percolation time. By repeating these 3 steps, we can find inspiration to break through tough problems. The third method for handling complex challenges is sleep. As mentioned earlier, complex tasks require memory, comprehension, and inspiration, and sufficient sleep unconsciously enhances these abilities.
People used to think sleep was just brain rest unrelated to learning, but recent research proves it boosts memory and comprehension of knowledge.
In a Harvard-led experiment, researchers divided students into 2 groups and taught them new material. One group studied at night, slept, then took the test in the morning. The other group studied in the morning without sleeping and took the test that evening. And results showed the sleep group scored 24% higher in accuracy than the non-sleep group. After 24 hours, both groups retested. The sleep group performed even better, scoring 35% higher. More experiments confirm sleep enhances performance in vocabulary, memory, logical reasoning, and presentations, boosting results by 10 to 30%. Scientists divide sleep into REM and non-REM stages. During REM, instruments detect rapid eye movement and intense brainwave fluctuations. Researchers believe the brain integrates fragmented knowledge during this stage, deepening our understanding. This stage also facilitates inspiration generation. Russian chemist Kekulé attributed his discovery of benzene's structure to dreaming of snakes biting their tails. Russian scientist Mendeleev told colleagues he spent sleepless nights trying to logically arrange elements, but failed initially. Only while sleeping did he dream of a table with all elements perfectly arranged, awakening to create the periodic table. Non-REM sleep is subdivided into distinct stages, each with unique functions. For example, some stages enhance motor memory, improving sports or musical performance. Others consolidate knowledge memory, helping us retain new formulas or texts more firmly. The author advises, if you have a performance like music or sports, or a logic-heavy exam like math or chemistry tomorrow, don't wake too early. Sleep in instead.
Because the sleep stages that boost motor memory and enhance comprehension mainly occur in the early morning.
For memory-heavy exams like history tests or vocabulary quizzes, where relevant sleep stages occur earlier, you can sleep early and rise early to review content at dawn.
Scientists also found that even 1 to 1.5 hour naps contain all sleep stages.
So napping similarly boosts learning performance. In one experiment, students who napped after morning study scored about 30% higher on evening tests than those who didn't sleep. All right, let's summarize part 3. We covered 3 methods for complex challenges. First, using interleaved learning to deepen understanding across knowledge domains. Second, finding inspiration through interruption, activation, and reflection. Third, ensuring sleep, where the brain boosts memory retention, comprehension, and sparks inspiration. With that, we've nearly covered how to learn. Let's revisit the book's core ideas. Memory consists of storage and retrieval abilities. Once stored in the brain, nothing is truly forgotten. What we call forgetting is actually weakened retrieval strength. Recalling nearly forgotten things actually strengthens their retention. To enhance memory, break environmental consistency for richer retrieval cues, space out reviews, or use self-testing. For complex problems, use interleaving to deepen understanding, or interruption-activation-reflection for breakthroughs, and tailor sleep schedules to task types for peak performance. All right, that concludes our interpretation of how to learn. Find reading notes below the audio. See you tomorrow.